So welcome everybody to today's program. We are going to be learning how to do some simple balloon animals today. Now I know everyone was provided with a few balloons and then a hand pump. So I do not plan on having a section of this instruction where I'm going to ask you guys to make anything. So you're more than welcome to give things a try as we're going. But I would primarily kind of offer this instruction as, you know, pay attention, maybe take some notes, and then afterwards or towards the end when we've got some free time, then give it a shot because I don't want you to miss anything. But like you heard in the beginning, this is being recorded, so you will be able to go back and see this video if you need to see how I twisted something or how I explained it. And I will show this now, and I'll also show it at the end. My website is natethegreatonline.com, and that will direct you to my Facebook page, which I will post some videos on how to twist the balloons that we're learning today. So you can also go to natethegreatonline.com, and that'll have some videos there as well of everything that I taught you today. Because we only have a few balloons, so sometimes, you know, balloons do pop. So if you need to maybe run to the store and get some more twisting balloons at the party center or get them offline from Amazon or something, you can always go back and watch these later. So jumping right into things, we're going to talk about some of the balloon basics. So the balloons that you guys were provided, those are called 260s. And the reason they're called 260s, these are those long twisting balloons. They've got a nozzle at the end for inflating, and then the other end is just a round tail. They're called 260s because if you blow them up all the way, they are 2 inches in diameter and 60 inches long. So those are your most common twisting balloons, but balloons come in all different sizes and shapes. They also make what they call 350s, which are a little bit bigger. So they still have your nozzle and they still have the tail at the end. But if you compare the two, you see one is much bigger than the other. And if you blow one of these up, they're 3 inches in diameter. And if you inflate them all the way, they're 50 inches long. So just comparing those side by side, you'll see that they're definitely different sizes. Now, also there's many different shapes. So if you've seen me maybe make balloon animals at the library or at another event before, and if you see that this bee that I've got hanging up there has a little kind of like stinger on the end of it, those are called bee bodies, and they actually have section at the end that doesn't inflate. So if we blow this up, we'll see the end never really blows up all the way. So you can make all sorts of cool things. Some people use them to make like apples and fruit, or I use them to make my big bees. They also got all different types of shapes. So some are shaped like hearts. So when you blow them up, they're in the shape of a heart. My favorite are eyeballs, and they've also got a whole bunch of cool ones that have all different emojis, mustache faces, and cool things, all right? So getting into the instruction part, you guys all have a pump, all right? It may look something like this. Mine is a pretty heavy-duty one. I've had this one for about probably 15 years, and it hasn't broken on me. It is called the Faster Blaster 2. I don't know if they still sell this model. They may have updated it since then. The nice thing about it is it inflates as you pull out and push down. So pumps are kind of an important thing. I haven't used one probably for a very long time because I like to blow them up manually. But I've also been lately going back to using a pump just so everybody's comfortable at my events so they don't have to worry about sanitation. So pumps are great. They come in all different sizes. Some people have big foot pumps that they use. Other people will inflate with like an air compressor too. So going to the balloons that you got, I think everybody has maybe 4 or so balloons. we're going to talk about inflating a balloon. So if you've got your stuff with you, you're more than welcome to follow along. But you've got the nozzle end of your balloon where it's kind of got this little almost like thicker portion that's kind of rolled up. And your pump of your balloon, you want to take and put that nozzle over top of the nozzle of your pump like that. It makes it easier to tie it the further that you push your balloon down. Now, depending what you want to make, you never want to inflate your balloon, rare exceptions, all the way. Because every time you twist a part of the balloon, it expands because the air has to go somewhere. So you want to leave a tail. You want to leave a tail on your balloon so that you've always got space to twist, right? And the more you practice and the more you work on your balloon twisting, you will get a very good idea, depending on what you want to make, on how far you want to inflate your balloon. So in the instructions that I give, I will kind of give you some rough numbers on how many inches you want to leave uninflated. But I've been doing it so long that I just know exactly how much to blow them up or how many pumps to put in. But that all comes with lots of practice, right? I've got about 22 years of doing this. So I started when I was about 7 or 8. So what we're going to talk about now is tying off your balloon. So you've pumped your balloon up, you've got it on your pump. You want to pinch the end of it and pull it off your balloon, okay? This is something that does take some practice, because if you let go, obviously it's gonna fly away, right? The easiest way I found to twist when I first started was I had my mom and dad tie them all for me, right? They probably are a little bit better. They've got some better dexterity in their hands and fingers. That was how I started. And I probably bought a bag of balloons from the party store when the party station was still open. I probably went through that whole bag before I finally figured out how to tie a balloon. The way I like to do it is I will hold it in one hand. I will take the 2 fingers of my other hand. And like I said, if you've pushed it all the way down on your pump, you should have a little section that's uninflated, right? You want to grab it with your hand here, stretch it, and wrap it around your 2 fingers, okay? So we're holding the nozzle and we've wrapped it around our hand. And what our goal is kind of like when you learn how to tie your shoes. We want this nozzle part to go over and underneath. This is the tricky part. Over and underneath that balloon. So I like to fold it over with my thumb, and then I kind of roll my fingers like this to get it to go underneath. And then once you've got that part, so we twist, we roll it under, and as we roll it off of our fingers, we've actually tied a knot in our balloon like that. All right? That's probably the most difficult part. So if you can do that, you can do it all, right? Again, you only have a few balloons, so it might be best to maybe have your parents help you blow them up and tie them before we get a little too carried away and you've got balloons flying all over your house, right? That is the hardest part, all right? So the next step is when you twist all your balloons, like I said, every time we put a twist. So I'm going to just start twisting this. So see, we've got a lot of tail here. That's probably about 2 of my hands worth. But every time we twist something. So if I just put a ton of twists, I'm just making a bunch of bubbles here. We'll see that our tail has gotten a lot shorter. Now it's only 1 hand. That's the important part of only inflating so much, okay? Perfect. Again, if you've got questions, you can type them into the chat, and we'll also have some time at the end where I'll answer any questions that you have too, because I know this is a lot of information coming at you guys. Let me check my list of things. All right, perfect. So I think we're at the point where we'll actually go through the steps of making something. So obviously, this is the Bee Festival. We've all been kind of gathering together since we can't really be at the library doing the full bee festival. So I want to teach everybody how to make a balloon bee. One of the simple balloon things, we don't need any fancy balloons like I showed off in the beginning making mine. We're going to just make a really simple one. So you're going to need one of your balloons. I'm going to choose, let's see, yellow for mine. So I have a yellow balloon here. Grab my pump. We're going to put the nozzle over the nozzle on the pump. And for your bee, you're going to want to blow it up all the way. Yeah, so some people are saying that their balloon pumps are maybe having a little difficulty working. So that's one of the things that the library kind of did encounter is some of the pumps, they don't really inflate well, or they're not the greatest pumps. So what I would say is maybe if you can blow them up, they're really hard to blow up with your mouth, but you might need to kind of just like any hobby, when you start learning something, you have to kind of invest a little bit into your hobby learning. So you'll need to maybe go out and get a little bit of a better pump, get them on Amazon, or you might be able to find them at the party store too, because that's one of the hard things is getting them blown up for sure. So for your bee, you're going to want to inflate your balloon all the way, but not too far, because if you inflate it too far, it might pop, okay? So here, you want to hold on to the base of your balloon, and you're going to blow that balloon up. So we've got a couple inches left. I like to blow mine up till they're just almost full, or maybe they've got a little bit at the end. And when I like to take them off, sometimes I'll pinch this section here and let out a little bit of air so I've got more room to tie it. And you also want, and you'll probably see me do this at all the events, is once I blow a balloon up, I'll kind of let out maybe 1 or 2 seconds worth of air really quick. Just like that. What that does is that allows our balloon to be really nice and soft and squishy. Because remember, if it's really blown up all the way and it's really firm, if you try to put too many twists in it, it'll pop. So we want to tie off the end of our balloon. And for our bee, we're going to start with the end that has our knot. And we're going to twist a small bubble, I'm going to say about 2 inches. So to do this, I grab onto the balloon with one hand, and then my other hand, this is my main kind of twisting hand, I'll grab on, and about 2 inches of the balloon, I'm going to hold here, squeeze down, and twist. And every twist, you want to make about 5 twists so that it's harder for it to come undone. Now, if you'll notice, I've got my index finger right over top of this twist. If I let go, well, of course, the balloon's proving me wrong right now, but normally if you let go, it'll come untwisted really easily. So you always want to make sure you're either pinching your twist or you're holding on to both ends so it doesn't come undone. So we've got our 2-inch bubble. I'm going to hold on to my twist here, and then I'm going to find the other end of my balloon here. So if you remember, like kind of what a bumblebee looks like, they've got a head, and then they've kind of got their butt or their thorax region that's a little bit bigger. So we want to make sure the end of our bee is a little bigger than our head for our bee. So I'll say maybe the width of my hand, so maybe 4 or 5 inches. We're going to hold on to here, and we're going to cross it over, kind of like this. So you'll see my twist is right over the top of my balloon. And from this back side, I'm going to push, almost like I'm pushing the two together, and that kind of allows me to twist them together. So we've got our balloon bee's head, our tail, and we've got this super, super big loop here. So I'll show you that again. We've got our twist here, and we're gonna cross over and push our body through and twist it about 4 or 5 times so that doesn't come undone. And this is why you want your balloon to be soft, because if you felt it in the beginning and it was soft, you'll feel it's a little more firm because we've put some twists in it. And this, like I said, will take practice figuring out how much to blow your balloon up. Now this last step to make your bee, I like to hold my head and body in one hand, and I'll kind of go about to the middle with my other hand, and I'll pull it like this to find the middle. I pinch the middle here, and just like with our body, we're gonna fold that together. So find the middle, give it a pinch, fold it together. With one hand, grab this side, your other hand grabs this side, and you just twist them in opposite directions. Again, like 4 or 5 times, and you've just made a balloon bee, all right? So again, let me undo that last section here. Maybe. I'll just make another one. So again, remember, we want to blow it all the way up, let out some air, couple inches for our head, find our tail, cross them, push them over. If you're having difficulty with this part, it may be easier if you hold on and then twist a bubble on each end, and that might help you get that twist a little better. So that's another way of doing it. So here, find the center, give it a little pinch, and fold your balloon in half. One hand on each side, and give it a twist. All right? What I also like to do is, when I first started, I would just make balloons and hand them out to people. But one of the things about kind of learning a little bit more about art, or how to make your art look a little bit better, is you always want to add some finishing touches. So I like to have Sharpie markers. You got to be careful because they're sharp. That's why they call them Sharpies. But it's true about balloons. If you get a brand new Sharpie marker, so brand new Sharpie, it's going to have a really fine point on the end. And if you notice, the one I've been using for balloons is kind of rounded. It's very stubby and not pointy. So what I do is, when I get a new marker, I'll get either some sandpaper or like a sheet of paper, and I'll just scribble around and push down to kind of round out the point, because that can pop your balloons, all right? So once we've got our Sharpie marker, I like to put some eyes. On our bee, and then a mouth. If you've got different colored Sharpies, you can do all different sorts of colors, but you want to use a permanent marker and either blow on it or give it a second or two to dry, because if not, if you touch it, you'll smear it. So you want to always give it about a second or two to dry before you touch it, right? And then I'll put, see, now that I smudged it, but I usually will put a couple stripes on our bee, so then it kind of looks a little bit like that one up there. So that's how to make a balloon bee. Again, this video you'll have later so you can look at it, and I'll post some on my Facebook page too. If you've got any specific questions about the bee, you can type those in and we can get them answered at the end. But we're going to move on to the most common and popular balloon animal, is the balloon dog, right? I'm sure everybody's seen one. Everybody maybe has tried to make one before. It's what a lot of people start off with. So for this balloon dog, again, you're going to need one of those twisting balloons that you have. I'm going to go with purple for mine. So I've got a purple balloon here. We're going to find our balloon pump. We're going to take the nozzle of the balloon and put it over the nozzle of the pump. For our balloon dog, we want to leave about 6 inches of uninflated balloon at the end. So I'll show you what that looks like here. Once we blow our balloon up. So I've left about 6 or 7 inches, give or take an inch or two there at the end. And we're gonna pull our balloon off. We're gonna tie our knot, so I'm gonna hold it, twist it around my fingers, roll it through, and we've got our knot there. Now for the dog, we're gonna learn a twist that's called the flower petal or a petal twist. So it's really easy. Is once you've blown your balloon up, you wanna give it a good squeeze, and squeezing it will kind of push the air down into the tail, and it makes it really nice and soft, so it's easier for you to put your twists in it. So the flower petal dog, all you have to do is take your balloon, you're gonna fold it over, and with your one hand, just like we did the wings for our bee, you're gonna grab onto your twist here, you're gonna squeeze it and pinch off the air. So you see I've squeezed it here, and then with your other hand, just twist your sections like that. So what you've made is like a flower petal. So that's why they call them flower twists, because they kind of look like a flower petal. So we've got our little bubble here with our flower petal there. And that kind of looks maybe like the head for our dog, right? Now the next thing, we're gonna just repeat this over 2 more times. So now we're gonna make the front legs of our dog. So this section here is gonna be the neck. So if you want your dog to have maybe a short neck, we're gonna fold it over here. Again, if your balloon's a little firm, give it a squeeze and it'll be nice and soft and pliable. So like before, we're gonna fold it over. See, I'm using the wrong hands here. So there we go, fold it over, and you'll find, just like kind of with writing, one hand may be a lot easier to twist your balloons with. So I'm left-handed, but my right hand does a lot of my twisting. My left hand's like my base hand. That's what holds on to everything. So once we've folded it over, we're gonna grab it, squeeze and pinch, and our other hand twists our balloon like that. So there we go, we got 2 flower petals. Our dog's starting to take shape. We've got our head, our ears, our front legs, and we've got a lot of balloon left, right? So that means we're gonna make ourselves a wiener dog, right? Because we don't wanna have a dog that's got a tail that's like 4 feet long. We want it to kind of be a little bit proportionate, right? So give your balloon a squeeze to push some air to the end there so it's nice and soft. You're gonna have a nice long body. And at the end here, just like we did before, fold our balloon over. We're gonna grab onto it with one hand, squeeze and pinch, and then twist it like that. All right, so we've got our back legs, our front legs, and our ears. And they were all made using the same type of twist. So that was just your flower petal, where you fold your balloon, squeeze and pinch, and then twist, right? If you want to get fancy, you can take your tail here, and if you bend it and kind of massage it a little bit in both directions, it'll put like a bend in it, so your dog will have a bend in its tail. And then, like I said before, don't forget, to make it finished, we want to put some eyes on our dog. So if you've got a marker, you can put some eyes on it like that. And that's your basic balloon dog. So using one type of twist, you've got a dog. And what's awesome is once you master how to make a dog, little do you know, but you can also make a lot of other things. So depending on how long you make the neck or how big you make the body, you can make all sorts of stuff, right? So our dog kind of looks like a dog, right? But if we make our neck super long and our body super small, you've just made yourself a giraffe, right? So you learn how to make 2 balloons and you didn't even know it. So just changing the proportions, so that's how big or small certain sections are, you can make 2 different animals that are pretty much the same thing, right? And if you're even fancier than that, and you don't blow your balloon up, maybe only blow your balloon up maybe 10 inches and make all your sections super small, you can make yourself a mouse, right? So you've learned how to make 3 balloon animals with only 1 type of twist. If you want to get a little more fancy, so we've just got pedal twists for our dog, you can make your dog look a little bit more detailed by doing individual bubbles. So for this section, we're going to use red this time. So I'll take a red balloon. I almost blew it up, but I want to make sure I'm showing you how to use your pump. So what I found, and it's kind of hard to see, if you're having difficulty holding everything, I forgot this is how I do it. I'll take my balloon pump and I'll hold it between my knees. It's kind of hard to see with the area here, but I've got my balloon pump held between my knees, and I can take both sides of the nozzle of the balloon and slide it over the nozzle of the pump a lot easier. So we're going to blow up our balloon. For our dog, remember, we want to leave about maybe 6 or 8 inches of uninflated balloon tail. Now, I just noticed when I pulled this off, I don't have a lot of space to tie my knot. So this is another tip. If you don't have a lot of space to tie your knot, you can pinch off the end, hold it nice and tight, and you can actually let that air out. So now you've got a lot more leeway to tie that knot, okay? So we're gonna tie our knot at the end. Now for this section, we're gonna use all bubble twists. So rather than a flower petal, we're gonna twist each section of our dog. This is where you'll start to learn how to manage your balloon and your hands a little bit better, because you wanna hold on to both ends of your balloon, because if you let go, it'll all come untwisted. So first, we want to twist for our head, maybe about 2 or 3 inches of a bubble. And then we're going to make our front ears of our dog. So to do that, I want to make my dog ears, let's say 4, maybe 5 inches. So that's about the width of my hand. So I'm going to squeeze here, holding onto our other end, pinch off that air. Now, if your balloon is a little too firm to pinch it, just give it a squeeze. Push some of the air down to the end, and it'll be a lot softer. So pinch and twist away. And you want to remember, always twist your balloon in the same direction. Because if I twist our first bubble, so I'm twisting away from me, if I twist another bubble towards myself, it comes undone because they unwind each other. So always twist in the same direction. I always like to twist away from my body, but just remember to try to twist in the same direction. So we've got a little bubble, a little bit of a bigger bubble, and we want our other part of our ears to be the same length. So you could try to twist it like this. That's a little difficult because we're trying to manage everything. What I like to do is I just take both ends, fold it in half, kind of like how we did our bee body. We're going to grab our twist and then just twist right there, and that'll make our 2 ears for our dog. So if we look at the difference, they're pretty similar looking, but the red ones just got a little bit more detail because our ears are 2 sections rather than our flower petal. But this purple dog, that's a lot easier to make. So this one's maybe the second type of dog you want to learn, is with the individual sections. And just like our flower dog, same thing. If you've got this section down, it's just repeating it 2 more times. So we're going to twist a bubble for our dog's neck. And then depending on how big you want your legs to be, we're going to twist another bubble. So that's maybe about 4 inches. Our neck was about 2. Just like before, we're going to fold it in half. I'm going to take between my thumb and my index finger, I'm going to grab the twist that we just made, give it a little squeeze to push some air down to the end, and with our other hands, we're going to grab that right there, and about 5 twists, now we've got our front legs, right? So we've got some balloon left. I'm going to give it a squeeze here. And you got to try to think in your head, like, how big do I want my legs to be? How big do I want my tail to be? And that'll start helping you make your your animals the right sizes. Because when I first started, I had dogs with huge ears and super tiny legs or huge long tails. That's okay. Just make whatever you can. And the more things you start to make, you'll get a better idea on how to make the sizes right. So for my body, I want maybe about 6 inches, 8 inches. So we're going to twist our body off here like we did. And then we don't have too much, so I'm going to do some maybe shorter legs in the back. So twist some legs there, about 4 inches. And I don't know if I'm not really good. I don't have a ruler, so you don't have to measure these exact. I'm just estimating the lengths, right? Fold it over, grab it with one hand, give it a pinch, and then twist with our other hand there. All right, so now we've got our dog that just has a little bit more detail than kind of that other dog that we made here too, right? And if you're really fancy with your tail, if you pinch here, you can either try to twist off a little section and then squeeze with your hands that air all the way to the end, and that'll make kind of like your poodle tail if you want to have a poodle dog. Or what I like to do, if you get a little fancy, you can pinch the bottom, pinch about an inch there, stretch it, and then if you squeeze the bottom, you can actually make the air jump. But that's a little tricky. So when I first started, I would just twist off a little bit, and then I would just squeeze with my hand to get it all the way down to the end, and then it'll stay there like that, right? So that's your basic dog with each section twisted. So it's a little bit more detailed than what we did with the pedal twist dog, or they call this the 3-twist dog because you're just doing 3 twists by folding everything over. This one's a little bit more detailed, but they both look pretty good. If you're just starting, that's a great thing to start off learning, right? Again, want to put some eyes on it to make it look a little bit more detailed, right? And you've got yourself a dog, right? Perfect. So again, if you got questions, you can type them into the chat and we can get those answered. But I want to, let's see, we want to show you guys at least one more thing to make before we kind of start going over your questions. So we've learned how to make a bee, because obviously this is the Bee Fest. We've also learned how to make a dog, because everybody, if you're making balloons, you have to know how to make a balloon dog. And we also talked about how your dog can be a bunch of different things, like a giraffe if your neck's long, or a mouse if everything's tiny, right? The most common thing you see after those two would be a balloon, a balloon sword, right? Because everybody, they're really popular. I make super giant swords, but we're going to show everybody how to make a basic balloon sword so that you can kind of battle it out with maybe with either your parents or your siblings there. So for my balloon sword, I'm going to use a gray balloon because I kind of want it to look like a real sword, right? So we've got our gray balloon. Find where our pump went. We're going to take the nozzle of the balloon and put it over the nozzle of the pump. For our sword, it's going to be like our balloon bee. We want to blow it up pretty much all the way, maybe leaving about, let's say, 2 or 3 inches of tail uninflated at the end, right? So blow that up. And we're leaving about, maybe about 2 inches of uninflated section at the end. We want to tie our knot. Remember, that's stretching it, wrapping it around our fingers, rolling it underneath that loop that we made. And then you got to get your fingers out of there. You don't want them stuck to tie the knot off, right? Okay. Give your balloon a squeeze. So I like to fold it in half and then kind of give it a big hug to squeeze it so that pushes the air all the way to the end. So for the basic balloon sword, you've already learned how to do this. It's going to be our pedal twist. So just like we used for the ear and the front and back legs of our dog, you want to twist a section for your handle. So if you want to have a big like great sword, make sure your section's big enough for 2 hands. But if you want just like a one-handed sword or like a dagger, you want to make it big enough just for 1 hand to hold on to. So for me, that's about maybe 5 or 6 inches. So we'll twist a bubble, right? And we're going to make a flower petal twist. So we're going to hold on to our twist. We're going to fold our balloon over, grabbing onto it and twisting our flower petal, all right? And we want to do the same thing. So we've kind of got an elephant maybe with a really long nose and our ears. We want to make another flower twist. So this is a little bit more tricky because we've got two things twisted instead of one, but same kind of idea, right? I like to hold on to the balloon. We're going to fold it back over, and we want to try to make it about the same length as our first flower petal. And we're going to grab everything right here with our twist where we folded it over, and then we're going to twist another flower petal just like that, right? So now we've got two flower petal twists with our short end and then a long end. So you just made yourself a balloon sword, right? And we see if you leave only about an inch or two, it's blown up all the way, right? So if you've got a little bit of tail left over at the end, that's a clue that maybe next time blow it up a little bit more. Or if it's super, super firm and it's like really hard to squeeze, next time you might want to not blow it up so far, right? So that's your basic balloon sword. You can make it a little bit more fancy if you want to put a third flower petal in and twist that. That gets a little difficult because you're twisting a lot of stuff in there. But now we've got 3 flower twists. So that just makes it a little more protection for your hand so your sibling can't, hit your hand, right? But if you get 2 in, that's just enough there too. So we've learned how to make a bumblebee for the Bee Fest, a dog, which could also be a giraffe, or maybe a mouse, or a bunch of other things, or an elephant, even if you make your first part of your nose for your head really long. And we've also taught how to make a balloon sword, right? So that's what we're going to cover for the twisting section. So I think everybody got about 4 balloons. So that's hopefully enough that you can make 1 dog, 1 bee, and 1 sword. And you've got 1 extra. If you're lucky, maybe you can make something else. Or maybe if one of those balloons popped or if it flew somewhere in your house where you can't find it, that's 1 extra balloon there. So everybody should be able to make a couple things. So if you had any trouble or if you think you might have any questions, type those into the chat. For the next couple minutes, I'm going to show some more, I don't want to say like advanced things, but maybe some next steps that can get you thinking. If this is something you enjoy doing, I'll show a couple things that are a little more technical than what we just taught today, all right? So the first thing I'm going to show, let's see, we're going to show how to make, I'm trying to think of something that, I'll show you how to make my dog. So the dog that I make and hand out at my events uses 2 balloons, and it shows a bunch of a little bit more technical things that I like to do for my thing. So we will make our dog blue and, how about blue and orange? So I'm going to get those 2 balloons out. So for this dog, it's similar to the dog that we just taught. We want to leave a couple inches of tail. And we want to tie our knot off. So for my dog, I make the nose and the ears a different color. So I start off by making another twist. If you start learning, is called a pinch twist. So it is a small bubble, and we twist both sides of this bubble together like a pinch. So we pinch it and we twist it. So that's a twist that kind of locks things in place so they don't come undone. So we're making the head of my dog right now. So that's going to end up being our eyes, and that's where our ears are going to go. The next thing is a little flower petal, right? So a little flower petal there that's for his lower jaw. And then I'm going to make 2 bubble sections, similar to how I taught you guys how to make the 2 sections of your dog's ears. And we're going to twist those in. So right there, that's maybe starting to take shape a little bit. We've got our mouth here. That's going to be our eyes. Now we're going to make our head, or our feet and our neck. All right. So that's very similar to how we taught you guys how to do the feet for your dogs, right? Now for this, I like to put another pinch twist in the legs of mine, that helps position the head a little bit more so it's looking straight out at you. And here's where I broke my own rule. My rule of not blowing your balloon up all the way. I still have to get 2 more twists, and I've ran out of space. I might be able to do it, but it also might pop. So that's what the problem is. If you don't leave enough space, it's hard to twist. Wow. So if you'll see the end of that balloon, it's like really, really big. So the normal balloon is usually not blown up that much. So that's where I had to force a lot of air into the end of it. Try not to do that. So make sure when you leave, always leave some space, right? So now we're going to make our ears and our nose. So for my nose, it kind of looks like a button nose on the dog. So to do that, it's kind of more tricky. You take your thumb and you actually push your knot into your balloon. So the balloon kind of goes around your thumb, and then it's hard to see because this is not clear, but what I'm doing on the outside is I'm pinching to find the knot inside the balloon, and then I slide my thumb out, and then I hold on to that knot, and you twist the knot, so it creates kind of like a button-looking type balloon for the nose of our dog. And then one thing that people really think is really cool is when you actually tear a balloon. So it's something like years ago when YouTube just started. What? Yeah, there was a time when YouTube wasn't a thing, right? You had to learn from books. But I was watching, and when I was in high school, I was watching somebody make balloons on YouTube, and they actually just broke a balloon right in half. And I was amazed. So I tried to do it once, and then that's how you make like things where you need certain lengths. So all they did is they twisted their balloon, and they took their finger right at their twist, and they just pulled it right off, and the balloon broke right in half. Crazy, right? But that's how we make just the nose for our dog. Since we've twisted that, it actually stays together. And I've been holding on to the rest of this because we still need it. So we're going to tie that off, and we're going to make some ears right here. Same thing I did before. Twist, tear it right off, and then you have to tie that. So that's some of the more technical things, right? We're going to take our ears, twist them in to the top, give them a little squeeze. So their ears are kind of like some floppy dog ears. And then on our upper jaw for where our mouth is, where we've got the 2 twists, we're going to take the knot that's twisted off here, and we're going to push that in the middle of those balloons. So it comes through on the other side, and we're going to wrap it around itself a bunch of times. And that has made our dog there, right? So like I said before, you got to make sure you put some eyes on all of your balloon things if it's an animal. And you get that lovely squeaking noise. So I've got some eyes on there. And I carry like a white marker with me. So they do make silver Sharpies, so I started using silver Sharpies before I got the fancier markers. And then you can actually put a little bit more detail into your eyes of your dog as well, so you can make it a little bit more fancy. So that's how I like to make my dog. So I made the dog that we taught you guys probably for years, and then I wanted to get a little bit more detailed. So this is the dog that I make at my events to hand out to you. So you've seen me before and you've asked for a dog. This is probably exactly what I made for you, right? Excellent. So that's some of the more advanced things that you can learn. I'll show you one last thing for that, how we made the nose where we pushed something inside. You can also do that to make balloons inside of balloons. Mind blown, right? So I have a bunch of clear balloons. They're the easiest to see this with. So I'm going to blow our clear balloon up. Some people they like to put bouncy balls inside and then twist them together, and you can kind of like race the bouncy balls back and forth. So what they do is we squeeze it so it's got a lot of extra room. We're going to twist a really small bubble, and we're actually going to take this bubble and push it inside of the balloon. But to show it in a little more detail, I'll actually use a different color. All right, so I've got a little red bubble that I quickly made here, and we're going to use that to push inside. Oh, it's a little too big. We should be able to make it work. There we go. So I have taken this red balloon and I've pushed it inside of our clear balloon, and if we twist it off and break it, we now have our balloon inside of a balloon. And what I like to do with this sometimes is I'll make like a balloon dog that swallowed a meatball. Yeah? So we make our balloon dog just like I taught you guys to do. We've got our front ears. We've got our front legs and our meatball. We want in the middle, right? And then our back legs. So now we've made a balloon dog that swallowed a meatball. So that's one of the other kind of more technical things that you can, if you really like this and you get good at it, you can start to learn some cool things like that. So I think we're down to maybe about 10 or so minutes left. So we're going to go through the chat. If you have any questions about what I taught you how to make, or maybe questions about balloon art in general, you can either type them into the chat, or I don't know if they can even raise their hand and we can have them ask a question too.
If they turn their video on, we could do that. We do have a few questions. So how were you able to learn how to blow up a balloon just with your mouth? Like, are there some tricks to learning that?
So that's if you get a little bit older and you maybe start playing an instrument in band, you'll learn, if it's a wind instrument, you'll learn about something called an embouchure, which is how you kind of structure and work the muscles in your mouth and face to kind of make and blow air through an instrument. So I played the clarinet, the oboe, and the trombone. So I had a lot of really kind of information on how to keep the shape of my mouth to blow air through an instrument. So if you're gonna try, what I forgot to mention before, so I'm glad somebody asked this question, is if you're having a hard time even with your pump getting your balloons to blow up, the first thing you can do is if you stretch them, that helps kind of put some extra, don't knock your balloon kit over, but that puts some extra kind of space in those balloons, and it stretches them out and it makes it easier to inflate, or definitely easier to blow up. So that's probably what you see at all my events. If I'm blowing them up manually, you'll see me pull a balloon out, stretch it really quick, and then blow it up, right? So once you've stretched your balloon out a lot, that helps. The number one rule, I don't care if you're blowing up these type of balloons or those big, maybe just round balloons for a party, don't puff your cheeks. That's rule number one. If you puff your cheeks, you've just exponentially, so greatly increased the possibility that you're gonna pop your ears, right? So if you ever tried to blow a balloon up and then behind your ears, like right here behind your ear, you feel that like really sharp pain and then it kind of like throbs, that's because you had too much back pressure when you blew something up and you probably puffed your cheeks. So what I do is I don't puff my cheeks, and then I try to, using my embouchure, I make sure my lips and all the muscles in my face are as flexed and as tight as possible. And when I first started, the easiest way to do it is you take the nozzle and you try to position that behind your teeth like that. So you don't want to bite down on it, but just a little bit of pressure to hold on to it. And then tighten your lips, not super tight, around a nozzle. And you want to try to do a big breath and as forcefully as you can to blow that up, because you want to try to get that started to blow up. If you can get the first section, just keep blowing, because as soon as you start, it's easier to continually force air through than to stop and start, because that's the hard part too. So deep breath, and then blow as hard as you can to try to inflate that. One of the things that helped me too when I first started is if you want to learn how to do it and you have a working pump, you can take your balloon, blow it up with your pump, and then let the air out of it. Because what you'll see, this one that's already been blown up, the part that we didn't blow up is still the same size, but the part that we blew up is actually a lot bigger. There's more slack in it because we've stretched it out. So if you blow it up with your pump and then let the air out, this balloon will now be a lot easier to blow up with just minimal effort. It took me a lot of practice. So I used a pump for probably about five years when I first started. And then over the course of maybe a year at home, I was just practicing blowing them up. And then one day I went to a balloon event, a balloon gig where somebody was paying me to make balloon animals. I forgot my pump. So I had no choice but to blow them up like that. So that was the first experience that I had. I was like, oh, I've been practicing this. I can do it. And from that day on, I stopped using the pump until recently. Just going back to using it a little bit. So that's the tips for that.
Awesome. I bet you use those stomach muscles a lot too.
Yes. Yeah. It also helps if you keep your diaphragm and kind of like your ab muscles. You want to keep them tight too. That helps.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a favorite balloon animal to make?
So my favorite balloon animal, it's not like super technical, but it's one of my favorites that a lot of people don't ask for, is a caterpillar. And it's pretty basic, but I think it looks really cool when it's done. So it uses that button twist at the beginning. And then you make 3 flower petals with about an inch bubble in between. And then your rest of your balloon, you push it through the middle of your flower petals. And then you take a second color, little bit of balloon there, and we want this bubble in the middle. So I just squeeze it until it's about in the center. And then that's a balloon caterpillar. That's probably one of my favorite kind of quick, easy things to make that a lot of people might ask if there's a long line. Caterpillars are cool, but they don't come up very often. Butterflies are more popular though.
One thing for everybody in attendance before I ask our last question here, if everybody could please put how many people are watching in the chat. Just give me a number of how many people at your household are watching, so then we can get an accurate count for our library statistics. The last thing, somebody asked if you were going to make a hedgehog today. So I thought in this last few minutes, are you able to make a hedgehog?
So I can show you a quick, easy thing so that you guys could create maybe a hedgehog. So a really basic hedgehog is if you get your balloon, and you probably only need maybe about 10 to 12 inches. And if you twist a little bubble, that's going to be for your head. And we want 2 small bubbles about the same size. That's for your front legs. So kind of just like we learned how to make yes, that's for your front legs. That's how we learned how to make our dog. So we twist that. So we kind of have our head and then our front legs. Now for the body, you want maybe about 3 inches, and we're starting to run out of space. And with this end, just like we did for our front legs, we want 2 little bubbles. And then I'm going to try to leave as little left over as possible. and we're going to twist that in, right? So we've got 2 front legs, our head, our 2 back legs with our body, right? And what I do is I grab the front and back legs like this, and then this tail here, I just wrap around the legs under the head like this. So it goes around there, maybe 2 or 3 times, right? And then if you've got some extra like tail here, you can either cut it off with some scissors, or if I don't have scissors, I'll try to break it off, or you can just take and you can hide it in the middle there if you don't have a lot of time. And then with your marker, you add all your details. So I'm going to put a face on this. We got some eyes, a mouth, and then for all the spines, you can just put little like hash marks for all the spines on your hedgehog. So that's an easy hedgehog that if you can make the dog, you can probably make your hedgehog too.
Cool. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then there was one other question in there about how many balloons do you bring to a gig when you make them?
So I buy my balloons like in bulk, like hundreds and hundreds at a time. So behind here, let me get my monkey out of the way. I've got my balloon bag that I bring to each event. So I've got a little thing that clips on the side. That's where I hold all my markers. But there's probably,
Wow.
There's probably about 200 of each color, and there's maybe 10 or 15 colors. And then I've also got all those other balloons like the hearts and the alien faces. So I probably have about 2,000 balloons that I'll just bring to me for each event. I will probably never use 2,000 balloons at one event, but it's easier just to bring all of my stuff with me. That way that I've got everything. They also, I've had this guy for probably about 15 years too. They make these little aprons where you can actually hold all your different colors and all your little fancy balloons in the little pockets. So if you're walking around, it's like a belt. It just clips to your waist. But if I'm stationary, I'll bring my big bag and I might clip this on the outside so that everybody can see the different color options as well. But yeah, probably about 2,000 balloons to each event. Some people, if they've got a ton of different, like I only have 3 colored hearts. I've got red hearts, white hearts, and pink hearts because those are the most common. Some people have every color of heart imaginable. So they probably have, maybe like 5,000 or 6,000 balloons because every fancy balloon has all different colors too. That's too many balloons for me. So.
Wow, thank you. That's awesome.
And then I will show one more time if you want some instructions. I know they're gonna record it and post it up, but at natethegreatonline.com, that website will direct you right to my Facebook page. And right after this, I'm gonna record a couple videos, at least for the dog and the bee and the sword that you should be able to see there too. So you can go back. Again, if you need supplies, I know you can find balloons at your party stores. They might not be the most durable balloons, but if you have Amazon, there's a company called Qualatex. I think it's Qualatex and Bella Latex that make balloons. Those are specifically made for balloon twisters, so they've got a little bit more guts and they're harder to break. So that's what I used. But when I first started, for the first 5 or 6 years, I was just going to the party store, buying like 100 mixed color balloons. That's probably the cheapest way to go when you first start. You're gonna pop a lot of them, but it's a great way to go out to the store, grab a bunch that you can just practice with. Because if you're not doing this like professionally, you might not need to really buy the super fancy expensive balloons though.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nate the Great, so much for coming and demonstrating for us and showing us some cool tricks and tips today. Again, thank you everybody that's in attendance for coming and participating with us. Again, if you could please type the number of how many people are watching into the chat, that'd be awesome for us. And that's all we have today. You can check out our other BE-Fest videos off of our website. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
Bye-bye.